The movie begins as the starship Avalon traverses the vast expanse of space, en route to the colony Homestead 2. In the beginning, 5,000 passengers slumber in hibernation while the ship operates on autopilot. As the ship nears a group of asteroids, its shield safeguards it, yet a collision with a sizable asteroid disrupts the system. Though the system rectifies most issues, it fails to address the depressurization in a module housing a lone passenger. That passenger is Jim Preston, who awakens to the system's greetings. Informed about the imminent arrival at a new planet, Jim prepares himself in his quarters, grooming and dressing. Eager, he heads to the training room, only to find it inexplicably empty. The holographic guide narrates details about the upcoming colony, but Jim is preoccupied with his solitude. Determined, he seeks out other inhabitants aboard the ship. Entering the main hall, Jim finds it deserted. Guided by the ship's system, he seeks out the person in charge of the passengers, only to come up empty-handed. His quest for the captain leads him to an unoccupied control room. At the observatory, Jim receives the disheartening news: another 90 years remain before reaching the planet. Realizing his premature awakening, he attempts to contact Earth, knowing his message won't reach its destination until 55 years later. A visit to the bar reveals a figure that turns out to be an android. Jim inquires about capsule damage, receiving an assurance of its impossibility. Nevertheless, Jim continues to explore, discovering his low passenger level, limiting him to basic coffee. As an engineer, Jim endeavors to repair his capsule but faces continual failure. His focus shifts towards accessing the command compartment, all the while observing the ship's system beginning to falter. Jim converses with an android who advises him not to worry and to continue with his life. Later, Jim infiltrates a lavish apartment owned by a wealthy individual. He relishes the freedom aboard the ship initially, but soon grows tired of the routine. Discovering spacesuits, Jim decides to venture into outer space. He ponders the vastness of the cosmos. Contemplating a drastic step, Jim considers opening the airlock to end his life but hesitates. Jim notices a woman named Aurora lying in a capsule. He frequently watches her interviews and spends time near her capsule. Debating whether to open Aurora's capsule, Jim seeks advice from the android. Despite hesitation, Jim ultimately decides against it. He shaves his beard but remains determined to open the capsule. Upon awakening Aurora, Jim hastily gathers his tools and flees. Struggling to come to terms with his actions, Jim grapples with guilt. In the ship's main hall, Jim encounters Aurora. They introduce themselves, but Jim conceals the truth about awakening her. Aurora becomes anxious and desires to return to hibernation. Jim informs her that the pods cannot return her to sleep. Aurora departs to rest after her time in hibernation. They dine together in the ship's dining room. Aurora, with her gold-level status, affords luxurious meals. She's taken aback to learn that Jim has been eating plain porridge for over a year and buys him a better breakfast. Despite Jim's prior attempts, Aurora remains determined to find a solution to restart the capsule. She delves into research and attempts to hack into the command center, but all efforts prove futile. As time passes, Aurora begins adapting to a regular routine aboard the ship. She approaches Jim, inquiring about his decision to journey to another planet. He explains that while mechanics might not be needed on Earth, they could be vital on the colony. Aurora, a journalist, prides herself on understanding people. She attempts to discern the individuals in hibernation pods but struggles to do so. Initially enthusiastic about documenting the migration to a new planet, Aurora abandons the idea. Growing weary of the conversation, Aurora and Jim enjoy their time together. Eventually, Aurora retires for the night. With the android praising her wonderful nature, Jim constructs a building for Aurora in New York City and later watches her swimming. Using a robot as a medium, Jim asks Aurora out on a date, taken aback by her beauty. They visit a bar together, and Jim is pleasantly surprised by the evening spent with Aurora. Aurora reminisces about her father, a writer whose life ended due to a heart attack, yet he lived it well. Jim guides Aurora to a hidden door, eager to reveal a special space to her. They step outside, holding hands, and take a leap together. Once inside, their connection intensifies with kisses and shared intimacy. In a heartfelt gesture, Jim discovers and gifts Aurora roses while their spacecraft orbits a fiery, crimson planet. Unbeknownst to her, they're celebrating Aurora's birthday. Jim plans to propose to Aurora, but the truth surfaces through an android's revelation. Jim intentionally awoke her from hibernation. Aurora confronts Jim in a fury, unable to comprehend his actions, storming away from him multiple times. She even confronts him physically at night, contemplating revenge but ultimately refraining. Afterward, Jim apologizes to Aurora via a voice message, expressing how her awakening brought purpose to his life. However, trouble brews as the ship starts malfunctioning again. With diagnostic systems failing, Aurora watches farewell messages from her friends and discovers a tree planet in the main hall. As Jim descends in the elevator, it gets stuck, further complicating their situation. Attempts to order food also fail due to system malfunctions. Suddenly, they hear voices from the captain. Meeting the captain, they explain the ship's issues, but investigations yield no data on the breakdowns, leaving them in a perplexing situation. The ship's systems start failing, prompting a manual check of the data. The captain discovers that Jim woke Aurora up, leading to a confrontation where Aurora expresses how Jim's actions shattered her life. Overwhelmed, the captain retires to rest. Seeking solace, Aurora heads to the pool but faces a sudden loss of gravity, struggling to resurface when it returns. As malfunctions escalate, the captain, perplexed, struggles to comprehend the root cause. When Jim awakens, a cascade of breakdowns ensue, risking the ship's entire functionality. The captain collapses, revealing over 400 health issues resulting from improper depressurization, leaving him with little time. In a poignant moment, the captain, aware of his fate, bequeaths his access bracelet to them, urging unity in the ship's repair before passing away. Critical errors mount, propelling them to the engineering bay. Gravity falters, and the android companion malfunctions. Inside the bay, they meticulously inspect the systems, only to find one room inaccessible. Jim opens it, inadvertently causing Aurora to be sucked into the depressurized void. They successfully seal the breach, restoring stability to the system. Upon reaching the nuclear reactor, they find it damaged by an asteroid strike. Jim and Aurora work together to replace the damaged component, yet the ventilation system malfunctions. Facing imminent danger with the reactor, Jim ventures into outer space to rectify the system, risking his life. Aurora, fearing for his safety, implores him to return. As Jim braves the hazardous space, Aurora attempts to cool the reactor but sustains injuries. Jim reaches the crucial point, grappling with a malfunctioning bolt while holding the shaft. Aurora, torn between saving Jim and preventing a catastrophe, decides to open the hatch, leading to Jim being pulled into space despite his efforts to hold on. Miraculously, the reactor stabilizes, but Jim drifts toward the engine, propelled back by sheer will. Aurora, relieved by his survival, regrets not meeting him under different circumstances. In a daring move, Aurora ventures into space, heading towards Jim. With a well-timed maneuver, she grabs him by the tether, and they return to the safety of the ship. Placing Jim in a treatment capsule, there's a moment of despair as the assistant reports his apparent demise. Thankfully, using her access, Aurora initiates post-mortem resuscitation, reviving Jim to her immense joy. They bid farewell to the captain, sending his body into the expanse of space. Jim demonstrates to Aurora the possibility of returning to sleep using a healing capsule, yet there exists only one such capsule. Advising Aurora to return to slumber and reach the planet, Jim settles in the bar. Aurora, hesitant to leave Jim unattended, joins him. Jim then presents her with a ring. As 88 years elapse, the ship nears the planet. The commanding crew awakens to find the main hull overrun by lush vegetation, a colossal tree reigning at its heart.